Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone. Good morning, everyone. We've all faced moments when life feels like it's knocked the wind out of us. Whether it's a career setback, a broken relationship, or an unexpected failure, there's a point where we find ourselves face down, wondering how to get back up. Today, we're going to talk about what it takes to rise strong, to step back into the arena with courage and hope. Failure is an undeniable part of the human experience. It's not something we can avoid no matter how carefully we plan, how hard we work, or how desperately we try to control every outcome. Life doesn't operate on our timelines or guarantees. And yet so many of us live as though falling is something to be ashamed of, a sign of weakness or incompetence. We tell ourselves stories that anyone who's successful must have bypassed failure altogether, as if they've managed to cheat the system of life itself. But here's the truth: falling is part of being alive. It's the price of daring, of trying, of living authentically. Every risk we take, whether it's starting a new job, opening our hearts to love, or speaking up for what we believe, comes with the possibility of failure. That's what makes it courageous. The problem isn't that we fall, the problem is how we view the fall. Too often we let it define us. We label ourselves as not good enough or not capable, instead of recognizing it for what it truly is: an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Imagine for a moment that falling was seen not as a setback, but as an integral step forward. What if we saw the fall as proof that we were willing to show up and take a chance? What if, instead of asking, why did this happen to me, we ask, what can I learn from this? The fall would lose its sting. It would still hurt, of course, but the pain would feel purposeful, not pointless. When we accept that the fall is inevitable, we can stop expending so much energy trying to avoid it. Instead, we can focus on how we respond to it, how we rise, and what we take with us when we get back up. Because falling isn't the end of the story, it's just the beginning of a new chapter. When life knocks us down, the first instinct for many of us is to retreat, to shrink, to hide the parts of ourselves that feel too raw or too messy to be seen. We tell ourselves stories to justify the fall, or to make it more palatable. Maybe we blame others, maybe we blame circumstances, or maybe, and this is often the most damaging, we blame ourselves in ways that are cruel and unkind. We craft narratives to explain the fall, and those narratives often become cages that keep us stuck. But here's the hard truth: the only way out of that cage is through radical honesty, owning your story in its entirety. This means embracing the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. It means looking at your life with unflinching courage and saying, this is mine. These are the choices I made. These are the experiences I've had. These are the lessons I'm still learning. Owning your story doesn't mean you have to like every chapter. It doesn't mean you have to be proud of every choice or comfortable with every outcome. What it does mean is that you take responsibility for your narrative. You claim it as part of who you are, not as a fixed definition of who you will always be, but as a foundation for who you are becoming. When we refuse to own our stories, we give our power away. We let shame and fear dictate how we see ourselves and how we show up in the world. But when we take ownership of our stories, something shifts. The act of claiming our truth, even the parts that feel heavy or shameful, liberates us. It allows us to rewrite the narrative in a way that serves us rather than limits us. Owning your story also requires vulnerability, which is no small feat. It means being willing to say, here's where I've been hurt. Here's where I've been hurt. Here's where I've made mistakes. Here's where I'm still figuring things out. Vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, it's a demonstration of strength. It's standing tall in the face of fear and saying, this is me, scars and all. There's a beautiful paradox in owning your story. The more honest you are about your struggles, the less power they have over you. When you stop running from your truth and start standing in it, you'll find that what once felt like a source of shame becomes a source of strength. Your story is not a burden to be carried alone. It's a bridge that connects you to others, reminding you that you're not alone in your struggles. In the end, owning your story isn't just about healing from the past, it's about creating a future that aligns with your deepest values and dreams. It's about stepping into the fullness of who you are and who you're meant to be. And when you do that, when you truly own your story, you give others permission to own theirs too. When something goes wrong in our lives, when we fall short of a goal, make a mistake, or experience a failure, our minds often default to judgment. The questions we ask ourselves in those moments are rarely kind. Why did I mess this up? What's wrong with me? How can I have been so careless? These questions don't seek understanding, they seek blame. They place a magnifying glass on our flaws, real or imagined, and leave little room for growth or grace. But what if we approach those moments with curiosity instead of judgment? What if instead of interrogating ourselves with harshness, we leaned in with genuine interest and a desire to learn? Curiosity is the antidote to judgment because it's open, compassionate, and forward-thinking. Judgment locks us in the past, while curiosity invites us to explore the present and imagine new possibilities for the future. Curiosity asks different questions. Instead of why am I such a failure, it asks, what can I learn from this experience? Instead of why does this always happen to me, it asks, what patterns or habits might be contributing to this situation? Curiosity transforms the narrative from one of blame to one of exploration. When we approach ourselves with curiosity, we're not just seeking answers, we're seeking connection. We're connecting with the parts of ourselves that are scared, hurt, or confused and saying, it's okay to feel this way. Let's figure this out together. This kind of self-compassion creates this space for growth because it acknowledges that we're not supposed to have all the answers right away. Curiosity doesn't stop at self-reflection, it extends to others as well. When someone else's actions hurt or disappoint us, our initial response might be to judge they're inconsiderate, they're lazy, or they don't care about me. But curiosity shifts the focus. Instead of jumping to conclusions, it encourages us to ask, what might they be going through? What could have influenced their actions? This doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but it does mean recognizing that people like us are complex and often carry unseen burdens. Practicing curiosity requires intentionality. It's not always our natural response, especially when emotions are running high. But with practice, curiosity becomes a habit, a way of moving through the world that prioritizes understanding over blame. And the more we lean into it, the more we discover about ourselves and others. Curiosity also invites us to be creative problem solvers. When we stop viewing setbacks as dead ends and start seeing them as opportunities to ask better questions, we open ourselves to solutions we might never have considered. A curious mindset doesn't fear failure, it sees it as data, as feedback, as part of the process of becoming. Choosing curiosity over judgment is one of the most powerful shifts we can make in our lives. It allows us to approach challenges with a sense of possibility rather than despair. It transforms relationships by fostering empathy and understanding. And it reminds us that life is less about having all the right answers and more about staying open to the questions that lead us forward. Vulnerability is a word that often gets misunderstood. For many, it conjures up images of weakness or exposure, as if being vulnerable means leaving ourselves defenseless or open to harm. But vulnerability is not weakness. In fact, it's one of the greatest demonstrations of courage a person can show. It's the willingness to show up, to be seen, and to risk connection even when there are no guarantees. In a world that often celebrates perfection, control, and invulnerability, choosing to be vulnerable is an act of defiance. It's saying, I refuse to let fear of rejection or judgment dictate how I live my life. Vulnerability is about truth-telling first to ourselves and then to others. It's about acknowledging the parts of us that feel messy, uncertain, or unfinished and bringing them into the light instead of hiding them in the shadows. But let's be clear, vulnerability is not about oversharing or exposing everything about ourselves to everyone. It's not about putting our pain on display for the sake of attention or validation. True vulnerability is intentional and purposeful. It's about opening up in ways that foster connection, growth, and understanding. It requires discernment and boundaries, knowing when and with whom it's safe to share. The paradox of vulnerability is that while it feels like a risk, it's also the gateway to some of the most rewarding experiences in life. Love, belonging, creativity, and innovation all thrive in the presence of vulnerability. When we allow ourselves to be seen as we truly are, we invite others to do the same. We create spaces where authenticity flourishes, where people can connect not just on the surface, but on a deeper, more meaningful level. Vulnerability also plays a crucial role in resilience. When we're vulnerable, we're honest about what we're feeling, whether it's fear, disappointment, sadness, or joy. We allow ourselves to process those emotions instead of suppressing or ignoring them. This honesty helps us move through challenges more effectively because we're not wasting energy pretending everything is fine when it's not. Vulnerability isn't about staying in the struggle, it's about acknowledging the struggle so we can move forward. One of the hardest parts of vulnerability is that it requires us to let go of control. We don't get to script how others will respond to our openness. Sometimes when we take the risk to be vulnerable, we'll encounter rejection, misunderstanding, or even ridicule. But even then, vulnerability is worth it because it's not about the outcome, it's about the choice to live wholeheartedly. Living a life grounded in vulnerability means choosing courage over comfort, authenticity over approval, and connection over isolation. It means being willing to say, I love you first, even if you're not sure the words will be returned. It means admitting, I don't know, or I need help without feeling like you've failed. It means showing up as you are, not as you think you should be. Vulnerability is the birthplace of everything that gives life meaning. It's where we find our greatest strengths, our truest selves, and our deepest relationships. It's not always easy and it's rarely comfortable, but it's always transformative. When we choose vulnerability, we choose to live bravely, authentically, and connected to what matters most. In a culture that often glorifies positivity and stoicism, it can be tempting to shy away from the full spectrum of human emotions. We're told to stay strong, look on the bright side, or keep pushing forward. And while there's value in optimism and resilience, there's also a danger in bypassing the reality of our feelings. The truth is, we cannot selectively numb emotions. When we suppress sadness, anger, fear, or disappointment, we also dull our capacity to feel joy, love, excitement, and gratitude. To feel all the feels is to honor the wholeness of our humanity. It's a recognition that every emotion, no matter how uncomfortable, serves a purpose. Emotions are not enemies to be defeated or weaknesses to be conquered. They are messengers, guides that carry valuable insights about our inner lives and our relationships with the world around us. When we allow ourselves to truly feel, we give ourselves permission to process and move through our emotions rather than getting stuck in them. Suppressing or denying feelings might seem like a quick fix, but unacknowledged emotions have a way of lingering beneath the surface, influencing our behavior and decisions in ways we don't fully understand. Feeling our emotions, on the other hand, creates a pathway to healing and clarity. But feeling all the feels doesn't mean letting our emotions control us. It's not about being overwhelmed or consumed by them, it's about acknowledging them without judgment. It's about sitting with your sadness and saying, I see you. You're here for a reason. It's about recognizing your anger and asking, what are you trying to tell me? It's about noticing your fear and reminding yourself, it's okay to feel scared. This means I'm stepping into something that matters to me. Feeling deeply can be scary because it requires vulnerability. It means confronting pain, grief, and uncertainty head on instead of avoiding them. But this willingness to feel is also what makes us resilient. It's what allows us to weather life's storms and emerge stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. When we let ourselves feel fully, we build emotional muscle. We learn that we can face hard things and come out the other side. This practice of embracing all emotions isn't just about the difficult ones, it's also about amplifying the positive ones. When we allow ourselves to grieve fully, we make room for joy to return in its time. When we acknowledge fear, we create space for courage. When we embrace our vulnerability, we open the door to deeper connection. One of the most profound aspects of feeling all the feels is that it connects us to our shared humanity. When we recognize our own emotional experiences, we become more empathetic toward others. We realize that everyone carries their own emotional landscapes, their own joys and heartbreaks. This understanding fosters compassion, not just for others, but for ourselves. In a world that often encourages us to push through or power past our feelings, choosing to feel fully is a radical act. It's a commitment to living authentically, to experiencing life in its fullness rather than skimming the surface. It's a reminder that being human means being messy, complex, and deeply emotional, and that this is something to be celebrated, not shamed. To feel all the feels is to embrace the richness of life. It's not always easy, and it's rarely comfortable, but it's always worth it. Because when we open ourselves to the full range of emotions, we open ourselves to the full range of what it means to truly love. In moments of struggle, when the weight of the world feels heaviest, the instinct for many of us is to retreat. We pull back, isolate, and try to shoulder our burdens alone. Sometimes it's because we don't want to burden others. Sometimes it's because shame tells us that no one could understand or that our pain is somehow a sign of weakness. And sometimes we retreat because vulnerability feels too risky. But here's the paradox: healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in connection. Human beings are wired for connection. It's in our biology, our psychology, and our very essence. From the moment we're born, we seek out others not just for survival, but for love, for understanding, for belonging. Connection isn't just something we want, it's something we need. When we share our struggles with someone we trust, something remarkable happens. The act of being seen and heard, of having someone sit with us in our pain without trying to fix it, reminds us that we're not alone. It doesn't take the pain away, but it makes it more bearable. It gives us the strength to face what we're going through, knowing that someone is in it with us. Connection heals because it combats the isolation that so often accompanies hardship. When we isolate, our struggles feel bigger, heavier, and more insurmountable, but when we connect, we gain perspective. We realize that pain is part of the human experience, not something unique to us. We're reminded that others have walked similar paths and have found ways through. Connection also fosters resilience. Studies have shown that people who have strong social connections recover from adversity more quickly and with greater strength than those who don't. There's a reason for this. Connection gives us access to resources, emotional, practical, and even spiritual, that we can't always generate on our own. It provides a sense of safety and support that allows us to take risks, to try again, and to keep moving forward. But connection isn't just about having people around us, it's about the quality of those relationships. True connection requires vulnerability. It means showing up as our authentic selves without the masks we often wear to protect ourselves. It means saying, I'm struggling, I need help, or even I don't have the answers. Vulnerability opens the door to empathy, and empathy is the foundation of connection. It's important to recognize that connection doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it's in the smallest moments: a friend sending a text to check in, a coworker offering a kind word, or a stranger's smile that reminds us of our shared humanity. These seemingly simple acts can have profound impacts because they remind us that we're not invisible, that we matter. Connection also heals by reminding us of our strengths. When someone reflects back to us the parts of ourselves that we can't see in our darkest moments, our courage, our kindness, our resilience, it helps us find our footing again. It's through connection that we remember who we are and what we're capable of. And let's not forget that connection isn't just about receiving, it's also about giving. When we offer support, empathy, and love to others, we're not just helping them, we're helping ourselves. There's a healing power in being there for someone else, in reminding them and ourselves that we're all in this together. That connection heals because it's a reminder of what it means to be human. It's a reminder that our struggles don't define us and that we are never truly alone. It's through connection that we find the strength to rise, the courage to try again, and the hope to keep going. Healing isn't a solitary journey, it's one we walk together. And in the presence of true connection, we don't just heal, we thrive. Resilience is often portrayed as a quality, something you either have or you don't. We imagine resilient people as unshakable, naturally strong, and capable of weathering any storm with ease. But this view is misleading and, frankly, unhelpful. Resilience isn't a fixed trait or an innate gift, it's a practice, something we build, cultivate, and strengthen over time. Like a muscle, it grows through use and effort, not through avoidance or wishful thinking. Resilience begins with a mindset, a willingness to believe that even in the face of difficulty, growth is possible. It doesn't mean denying the pain or pretending that everything is fine. In fact, true resilience requires us to confront our challenges honestly. It's about saying, this is hard and I don't have all the answers, but I'm committed to moving forward. It's in this commitment that resilience is born, not from a lack of struggle, but from our response to it. One of the core components of resilience is adaptability. Life rarely unfolds the way we plan, and resilience is about learning to pivot when things don't go as expected. This requires us to let go of rigid expectations and instead approach challenges with curiosity and flexibility. Adaptability doesn't mean giving up on our goals, it means finding new ways to pursue them when the original path is blocked. Another essential part of resilience is self-compassion. It's easy to fall into the trap of self-criticism when things go wrong, blaming ourselves for not being strong enough or capable enough. But resilience isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Self-compassion allows us to acknowledge our humanity, to accept that mistakes and setbacks are part of the journey. It reminds us that it's okay to rest, to feel discouraged, and to ask for help. In fact, resilience often requires leaning on others, recognizing that we don't have to do it all alone. Resilience also thrives on perspective. When we're in the middle of a struggle, it can feel overwhelming, as if the pain or difficulty will last forever. But resilience invites us to zoom out to see the bigger picture. It helps us recognize that setbacks are temporary and that we've overcome challenges before. This perspective doesn't diminish the difficulty of the moment, but it gives us hope and motivation to keep going. Building resilience is a daily practice. It's in the small choices we make choosing to get up after a fall, to try again after a failure, to reach out instead of withdrawing. It's in the habits we cultivate gratitude, mindfulness, physical self-care that strengthen our ability to face adversity. Resilience isn't built in a single moment, it's built over time, through repeated acts of courage and self-trust. Resilience also involves finding meaning in our struggles. This doesn't mean everything happens for a reason or that every hardship has a silver lining, but it does mean asking ourselves, what can I take from this experience? How can this challenge shape me in ways that will serve me moving forward? Finding meaning helps us transform pain into purpose, allowing us to grow rather than simply endure. It's important to recognize that resilience doesn't mean avoiding vulnerability. On the contrary, resilience and vulnerability go hand in hand. To be resilient, we must be willing to face our emotions, to feel the grief, fear, and disappointment that come with life's challenges. Avoiding these emotions doesn't make us stronger, it makes us brittle. True resilience comes from integrating those emotions into our journey, using them as a source of wisdom and strength. Ultimately, resilience is about showing up again and again, no matter how hard it gets. It's about trusting that even when we don't feel strong, the act of continuing to move forward is itself an act of strength. It's not about bouncing back to who we were before a challenge, but about growing into someone new, someone stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Resilience is a practice, not a destination. It's not something we achieve and then check off a list. It's a way of being, a way of engaging with the world that honors our struggles, celebrates our progress, and believes in our capacity to rise. Through this practice, we learn that we are far more capable than we ever imagined, and that no matter how hard life gets, we have the power to endure, adapt, and thrive. To rise strong is not to erase the scars of our falls, but to carry them as evidence of our bravery. It's not about avoiding struggle, but leaning into it and letting it shape us into something extraordinary. So let's commit to rising strong, not just today, but every day. Because when we rise, we don't just lift ourselves, we lift everyone around us. Thank you.